that we do a great job. Welcome everyone to today's webinar, How to Create a Winning Playbook. I'm thrilled to be here today. And it's interesting because I'm already amongst celebrities here on our panel. And then I look in the chat and I see all these celebrity names, well-known industry veterans. And so no pressure. Okay. I'm going to tell Paul, Mark, Tara, and Adrian, no pressure here. We have big shoes to fill, but I just want to thank you all for being here, taking your time out of your schedule. I can tell you the conversation is going to be great. I have a lot of work to do today as a moderator to keep everybody in line. And I think my hardest job is going to be keeping us on time. So with that, we are going to dive right into today's conversation. I am thrilled to welcome to the stage, first and foremost, Adrian Danila. Adrian, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Adrian Danila. I'm the Regional Director of Maintenance for Lesson with Lesson. I've been in the industry for 19 years, started from the groundskeeper entry level, worked my way up. This is my fifth regional director gig.
Fantastic, Adrian. Well, many people probably already know you from social media as well. We love watching all of your posts on LinkedIn. So thank you so much for being here today. And next up, we have Tara Samuels. Tara, please introduce yourself.
Hey, and don't forget, Adrian has some great podcasts too. But anyway,
very true.
So I am Tara Samuels. I have actually been in the industry 20 years plus. I think I stopped counting after 20. And many of you know about my kind of unique living situation. So I'm in Chicago right now, but I spend half my time in Atlanta. And my husband is also in the industry who lives in Atlanta. And my experience comes from over the 20 years, I spent half the time on site from leasing to property management. And then I came over to the dark side in 2009, where I have been a various supplier for renovation companies, staffing and recruiting. Right now, I'm talking all kinds of trash, a trash butler. And my passion project, which many of you have been great supporters, is AMP, which stands for Apartment Management Professionals, which is a niche multifamily networking group that I started about 8 years ago. So that is my story, and I'm excited to be here today.
Thank you, Tara. I love AMP. So I'm so thrilled you mentioned that. I actually did not know you were partially in Chicago and partially in Atlanta. So that's a fun fact for many of us to learn. And I'm excited for you to talk some trash today too. We've got some good topics to cover there. So we look forward to that. Next up to our virtual stage, you may know him. He's been around the block a time or two, Mr. Paul Rhodes. Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Stephanie. I'm honored to be able to join today. My name is Paul Rhodes. I'm Director of Maintenance with Life Properties. I've been in the apartment industry for over 27 years in all the various aspects. Started out from a grounds technician all the way up to now I'm Director of Maintenance Operations, and spent 15 years on the road traveling and training for a supplier and also for the National Apartment Association, which is where I had the absolute pleasure of meeting and working with Stephanie quite regularly. So I'm just glad today to try and say something innovative that can help our industry and keep us pushing forward with maintenance excellence. So thanks for having me.
I have no doubt you'll do just that. And I do appreciate you wearing the Grace Hill colors today. That wasn't planned at all, but I appreciate it.
Nice.
All right. And last and certainly not least, my colleague and today's comedian, Mark Vanderhoof. Mark, please introduce yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm the senior citizen of the group. I started in maintenance in the late 1970s. 1970s. I've had over 40 years experience in multifamily. I got the great pleasure to eventually go and train with Paul Rhodes with HD Supply. And then he left me there by myself, went to work for NAA. So I decided to teach myself and learn how to do course development. And I went to work for a few different companies and ended up with Grace Hill. and I'm very proud of some of the work that I've done there and accomplished with Grace Hill. And it's a pleasure to be here today with this esteemed panel, and we hope we serve you well today. Thank you.
I have no doubt. Thank you so much for joining us. And I love that they all did their own introductions. I think it's so much more fun than me reading from a page or telling their dirty secrets. Instead, they got to share what they wanted to share. We'll save that for another time and day. So I won't bore you with the agenda. You know why you're here today. We're going to talk about some really, really important stuff as it relates to maintenance, recruiting, keeping great people, and just continuing a conversation to provide solutions that are going to help around the maintenance labor shortage. All right, so we're going to dive on in. We do have some pre-formulated questions for you all today that they're going to answer, but the good news is they're going to be taking live Q&A. This is huge. This is your chance to ask the expert. I would prefer if you would use that handy dandy little Q&A box up on your screen there, but certainly if you want to drop it in the chat, that's fine too. And we will be doing that a little bit later today. So we're going to start off talking about maintenance job recruiting. MaintenanceRecruiter.com said an estimated 85% of maintenance professionals do not have an online profile. That includes LinkedIn, Career Builder, and such. Now, I know, Adrian, you've fallen out your seat over there for just a minute because you can't imagine not having a LinkedIn profile, but apparently people don't, and that number is pretty staggering. So the question really is, do you know where your maintenance candidates search for jobs? Shouldn't we know these things in order to better understand where to find candidates? Adrian, come on, talk to me here.
From experience, and I've done a lot of recruiting, especially lately for the past 3 years, intensive, hundreds of interviews, hundreds of appointments, and I've done on my own a lot of research, right, online. Seems like most of the maintenance technicians, which are the most hunted species in an industry, are living on Facebook groups. Now, I know that they're going over there to probably just, meet with their peers and, socialize and, share stories. But at the same time, I know everything, including recruiting, it's about attention nowadays. So, how do we get to our public? We try to get their attention, right? How do we get their attention? We get in front of them. How do we get in front of them? We find out where they live, virtually live, right? So I've learned, and I had a lot of great interactions with maintenance professionals on several Facebook maintenance related groups. That's where they, tend to socialize, right? The type of social media that they like. When we go to service manager positions and higher up, like director or vice president level, you will find a lot of them have LinkedIn profiles, right? I will say probably with service managers, they do both Facebook groups and LinkedIn. But then when we go upper, we will find regional type and vice president type on LinkedIn. I will say not only, but mainly, right? That's kind of where they live. As far as how do we get to them, I think that a lot of them are really coming to us. Now the internet made it so easy for them to apply. Just the fact that you could have the Indeed app on your phone, and then you could search by search word and location and say, I'm looking for a service manager or a maintenance technician position in Atlanta, right? You're gonna have coming up 20 or 30 or 50 positions. They're active on Indeed. And basically with the option of one-time click, you basically could apply to 15, 20, 30 jobs in a matter of minutes, literally. So those are the ways of how our maintenance professionals, I will say that's the type of behavior that I've learned for the past few years.
Wow, that's great information. I mean, would you imagine that this kind of shifts too, depending on how long the person has been in the role? I mean, do you see things like that in terms of where you find candidates? Like, do people who have been in the industry, 30 plus years, are they somewhere different than where you would find maybe your novice, less than 2 year?
I will say yes, Stephanie. I will say yes. So let's talk about people that have been around for a very long time. I will say that, if you've been around for 30 plus years, then, you're going to be in your 40s, 50s, or or 60s, and probably I don't see a lot of movement. I don't get to meet a lot of folks because probably they're going to the classic ways, right? I would say more of a job board type of thing. Now, when we're talking about the younger generation, they tend to have they tend to interact a lot on social media. They tend to use LinkedIn. And then when we're talking about positions, right, again, service managers and director level and up, I will think that they probably get their job opportunities mainly on social media, mainly on LinkedIn, and less on job boards.
Interesting. Cecilia dropped in the chat here. I thought this was good, that it's harder, or it seems to be harder, to reach service tech applicants on the phone. Texting is the best way to reach them. Paul, what do you think about that?
I can agree with that somewhat. The challenge that we're having, kind of to Adrian's point, is that limited digital communication methodology. Our younger generations, stereotypically, which is awful to think or awful to go by, but realistically, they're communicating a lot more by texting and than we are, persons like myself. I'm not a big fan of texting personally, but to kind of parrot what Adrian's point, we have to go where they're going. So yes, texting is how they're at. But my question is, and the challenge is, how can we as employers communicate completely a full interview or a full questionnaire, even to the point of what we're expecting out of a interview, just by text message, without getting cramped thumbs trying to get it all in on the phone or on the computer or the app. That's a challenge that I think we don't have a good solution for yet.
You can text links to them if they're truly interested in a position or a job. They'll click the link. Yeah.
It does make me wonder, with so much unemployment and things, I've heard so many people saying they get ghosted. Like they've applied for a job, but then when the recruiter calls them to set up the interview, they ghost them. You would think they want the job. I mean, what do you think, Tara? What are your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, absolutely. Adrian and I have done a bunch of maintenance roundtable sessions, just kind of sharing these hot topics. And one of the things that I think where our industry struggles is the response time, I think, on our end, because the candidate pool, there's a lot out there and you have to differentiate yourself. So if you're not texting or being where they are, at least work on your response time to make them feel seen. Okay, you saw that I'm interested in the position. You hear me that I'm interested in the position. And now let's get to the root of trying to get the interview scheduled. But I agree, like it's tough. I know that there's probably some more tools that we're working on as an industry to kind of be more comfortable with texting, but I would just say that let's work on the response time first and make sure that we're very responsive, so we're not losing candidates for that lack of response time.
I'm kind of curious though, I know in our instance, we're trying to figure out that good blend of, there are so many tools now: Indeed, Craigslist, Facebook, LinkedIn Jobs, Monster.com, Career Builder, Apartments.com, NAA, each apartment association, all of them have job boards. And to Adrian's point, if I'm applying for a job, I can hit one button and apply to all of them, just blast it out there. On the flip side, though, we link up with all those job boards. We get all that information coming at us like a shotgun blast. How can we, and I don't have an answer, but if we've got 150 candidates coming all of a sudden with very little accurate feelers or triage going of all of those people coming in, how can we effectively reach out to the people who are actively searching in short enough time to make that happen, when companies, ours included, are all digital focused And at the heart, we're dealing with a candidate that is not a digital universe. They're not living in the digital world. So it's a challenge to find. And I think really the solution is we got to keep experimenting. Kind of, Tara, to your point, if we've got to keep trying things.
I agree. I think it's a lot of trial and error type of situation. I also wanted to point out when candidates are being ghosted, right? What is the challenge on our end, on the employer end, right? You have a lot of job openings. Every company has more job openings than they ever had in the history, right? There's not enough recruiters to fill those job openings. So a recruiter that has 10 or 15 openings at every single moment, that's really mission impossible. I was speaking with a recruiter the other day, and they were telling me we literally made 35 phone calls one day to maintenance technician candidates. Not a single person answered the phone. So when we're looking at the numbers, like you might get 30, 40, 50 people in order to get one person to agree to meet you in person, to get to meet them in person. It's a huge task. It's a huge task. So in order to get one maintenance tech secure, it takes, and it costs not just time, but it costs a lot of money. Probably if I had to, give it a best guess, $10,000 to $15,000 cost nowadays the companies between time, resources, and everything to bring in a good maintenance technician on board.
Adrian, we did get a question in the chat I'm hoping you can help with. When you mentioned earlier Facebook groups maintenance candidates are in, are there any specific groups that they could target to increase their candidate pools?
Definitely. I don't have the specific groups handy. I promise that I'm gonna do a quick search and I will get back to the person that asked the question. But they're apartment maintenance groups, right? So if you type in under groups, if you type in search and you just type apartment maintenance, the most popular groups are gonna come on top of your search, right? Just type apartment maintenance and they're going to come, and you'll see that they have probably tens of thousands of members, the most popular ones. Right. I believe it's apartment maintenance group. I'm doing a quick search right now.
Just to sound like the president, Adrian.
In the chat, who was it? Celia had mentioned that their management company is doing job fairs, but the challenge there is making or amplifying the job fair big enough so that we get enough coverage to get even those, to Adrian's point, I think what she's alluding to is we have to amplify it big enough to get even those 1 or 2 people to come. And that's a challenge when now all of our marketing is focused towards those online groups, the online places that our candidates are not looking at.
Vicky Sharp mentioned in the chat that a lot of people probably can't comfortably take calls during the workday. Yeah. So calls may need to be taken after hours or on weekends. I know me personally with my cell phone, I have a feature that I can turn on so that I don't get all the spam calls and the telemarketing calls, and my phone will not ring with certain calls, and I won't answer those calls, and I will wait and hope that if it's important, if they really want to talk to me, they leave a voice message. And, I think a lot of times people just hang up if nobody answers and move on because they're so busy. They've got a lot of calls to make. We have to understand the technology we're working with and adapt to it as well.
Very true. Adrian dropped the name of one of the groups on the chat here for you. And then Debbie also sent a link to a Facebook group that has over 5,000 members. So we're going to continue this conversation and keep rolling into our next question. But I love that the chat, what I want to encourage the chat usage for today is you all to have that camaraderie with each other as we're conversing here. Since we can't hear you, we can see what you're typing. And I love when you share ideas and you have questions, because if we're not able to answer them, someone else might have this great idea and they can share it with you. And so that's the beauty of the world that we live in. As our friend Dr. Debbie Phillips would say, we are net weaving here today, my friends. So into our next question, maintaining innovation. This is a great segue because we're talking about technology quite a bit here. In Units magazine back in December, many maintenance professionals essentially become teachers during the pandemic. Unable to enter homes, they remotely guided residents through some of the simpler fixes in their apartments. How can we innovate to keep our teams engaged in today's property staffing environment? Now, when I think of teacher, facilitator, instructor, and I think of maintenance, Paul Rhodes, my friend, you're coming right to mind. We're going to kick this off with you.
Thanks, Stephanie. I absolutely love this topic because it kind of reinforces what we as maintenance technicians and really we as an apartment maintenance industry do. Every day is full of innovation, and that's kind of in the job description, either directly or in between the lines of every job posting that there is. In order to be an effective apartment maintenance technician, innovation is absolutely required. And what I mean by that is we're presented every day with a challenge, with a problem, with a work order, with a service request, with a resident request, with an issue, with something that comes up. And we've got to come up with a solution, sometimes without the exact thing that has to be used in order to fix it correctly. So we have to innovate. The case in point, I love the fact that during the pandemic, hindsight is perfect. During the pandemic, when we couldn't go into residence apartments, we were innovating. We were becoming teachers. In some instances, as an industry, we were doing what I did on the road for NAA, what Mark has done on the road with HD Supply. As a matter of fact, I seem to remember, Mark, you and the Grace Hill team actually came up with a tool to help technicians teach better or guide residents through simple repairs. So all of those bunches of words comes into play to say we've got to innovate now, not only towards our residents, but towards ourselves. There are, as we've already mentioned, there are a lot of tools that are available. I know the Life Properties, we're innovating several tools to try and make the job of being an apartment maintenance technician more effective or more efficient. One, we're using an online whiteboard to where instead of having to go back to the office and use the whiteboard to write on to keep track of what apartments we're turning, what ones we're making ready, we actually have a digital version that lives online that gives us the ability to capture pictures of that apartment, of the condition, and we can even take their tools that are available to where it can be used to create POs. You can create orders from it. Some of them, which we're headed towards, some of them will link up with your property management software and your accounting software. So you can actually get a maintenance technician that goes into an apartment, goes and sees an issue, fill out their form on their phone, on their device, and turn it into an order, which innovates and shortcuts that process, taking out, allowing to get rid of some of the middlemen. And ultimately what that does is it empowers our technicians to be the direct link to the exact information without having to play the messenger game. I need this part, so I tell my maintenance supervisor. My maintenance supervisor tells my property manager. My property manager places the order, goes to the accounting department to get the PO, then we place the order with the supplier. The supplier doesn't have the exact part, so they go back and forth, and it's round robin in that communication. So the innovation can happen there. Ultimately, what we need to do, though, is be sure that we're acknowledging or we're taking advantage of that fact. And since apartment maintenance technicians and our apartment maintenance workers innovate as a part of their job, as a management company, a part of our responsibility is to capture that spirit. Make sure that we're asking our maintenance technician, our current employees, how can we do this better? Since you're the boots on the ground, what ideas do you have to innovate? Because it's in our DNA as maintenance technicians, as maintenance supervisors. Innovation, it's all around. Sometimes it's just a case of we need to ask the question and give a forum for that to occur.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you're saying ask the question, right? And then wait for the response, because that's the way you're going to make meaningful impact moving forward. Adrian, I'm really curious here to hear your thoughts. You're on the road so much. And one of the things I love hearing about with you is that you are on the ground talking to people and getting feedback and that one-on-one experience with them. Can you kind of enlighten us here with anything that you're doing or you're seeing out there that's making a difference?
Yeah, I think what was really making a difference, Stephanie, is that you create a real report, a real relationship, not just something that's transactional. If we're looking all around, everywhere around, right? Everything's transactional. I'm gonna, invest this, I'm gonna get that in exchange. I think people are really starting to appreciate a lot more just like a very genuine conversation, just someone that genuinely shows empathy, that cares for them, that really cares to hear and understand who they are. I really think I'm seeing this a whole lot, and I get a lot of feedback. I definitely do speak with a lot of people while I'm on the road, or literally with my connections on LinkedIn, people that I never met before. It's something that goes sometimes, okay, maybe just I would say it's a career advice. Sometimes it's just they're trying to sell a product. They're new to the industry. They're trying to understand how the industry works so they could get to the decision makers and get in front of them. There's all sorts of conversations, but I could tell you that the human factor is what really makes the difference. That makes the difference not in general, in society, in conversations, in building relationships, but it makes the biggest difference when you try to hire someone, because like people want to feel valued, right? And if you if you're really not willing to give them your time at this stage in the interviewing process, right? How are they really going to believe that you're going to give them your time once you're their direct report, your employee? So it comes down to that, and people are very sensitive. I had a situation not too long ago where, I asked one of my coworkers that was with a company longer than I've been to contact one of my prospects and just kind of give him more insight about the company, which is the type of insight that I didn't have because I'm fairly new to the company, and I could tell you that was like a miracle phone call. Literally 5 or 10 minutes that he spent with that individual really made the individual wanted to come work for our company, just because someone took the time and really explained to them where we're coming from, who we really are, who the founders are. It was the information, some type of information that I personally didn't have. So it really is just being genuine and establish a genuine, honest relationship, just and show empathy.
Couple of things there to follow up on what Adrian is saying in the chat, relating to Adrian, the point you said. If we can't spend time during the interview process, how can the candidate be expected to have time or get that time after they're hired? And in the chat, they're talking about what type of forum does a maintenance team member prefer? And somebody else said they actually offered a $100 gift card incentive for their idea to be implemented, but nobody reports anything. I think to follow up and kind of take it to the employment part. Some of the issue here is a topic that I know Adrian and Tara, you guys have talked about a lot on your podcast, and that is our culture. How we view the relationship with our maintenance team members and our office team members. And I know Mark here in a little bit is gonna expand on it based on his experience, but that is a very key critical point. How do we encourage our teams to get the conversation going? Not just a transactional action of, I'm the community manager, you're the maintenance tech, you go do this, call it done, and be satisfied with that at the end of the day. Or the reverse. I'm the maintenance technician, you're the community manager, I've been treated this way all my career, can't expect anything better. We as an industry have to begin to capture that and to solve that. One of the examples, to answer the question in the chat directly here, one of the examples that we do is every day we have an expectation for a communication at the site level, a conversation, not just hi, how are you, now go do your work. A directed conversation where information is required to be shared and reacted to. In other words, it's designed, it's kind of like a script of today we talk about this, tomorrow we talk about it. And one of the key parts for us is that every day we celebrate what we did yesterday that was a win. What we succeeded at yesterday, not just what we failed at or what we didn't get done or what we need to do today. Take a moment and reflect back what we did. Now, it can't be just a one-time event. To your point, if I offer you $100 for an idea, but you everywhere along your career, every time you had an idea, it wasn't listened to, or it was disregarded, or it was thrown away, or even worse, you were given the impression or the perception that it was not a good idea. If I'm the person on the receiving end of that, you can give me $1,000. I'm not going to speak up because the past history, again, to your point, Adrian, if it happened this way all the time, how can I expect something to change in the future?
I don't know if you all are monitoring this chat, but this is good stuff. And I know as you all are talking, it's hard to look at that and engage in the conversation here. But I tell you what, this is good stuff. A lot of perspective here. And I think we can all agree that we're not alone in these problems. And so I love that you all are providing some solutions and commentary around this, because you can tell by the chat alone. I mean, this is pretty universal what's going on. And it's great to share that perspective. Well, let's just keep moving on here. I keep looking at the clock and I'm like, how are we going to get all of this done in this amount of time? But we're going to do it. We're going to do it. All right. So Mark, let's dive in here a little bit. This is pretty alarming statistic. The Department of Labor just released a new report showing that more than 4.5 million Americans left their jobs in November of 2021. And they did so voluntarily, which is very important to note. That's equivalent to 3% of the workforce. So what are some strategies that management companies can deploy now to make their maintenance teams feel seen and heard?
That's a great question. Let me think about that for a minute.
Oh, actually, that was for, oh my God. Okay, everybody's entitled to their one today. This will be mine. Okay, we'll go back to Mark. Tara.
No. I wanted to real quickly before I answer that question, I wanted to, Heather in the chat asked if I could go into some details on what Grace Hill developed. Paul had mentioned when the pandemic hit, we knew that a lot of maintenance teams weren't going to be able to go into apartments. So we created a tutorial on how to do YouTube videos and post them on YouTube for their residents on simple things like how to replace a filter, how to unjam a garbage disposal, how to do, whatever it is that you're getting a lot of calls for. We have a very easy to follow tutorial for you to make videos if you're on-site maintenance personnel. and put them on LinkedIn or up on YouTube and share them with your residents in a private channel. So Heather, I hope that answers your question. To the question you asked, first, I think we all must remember that we're all human beings. So simply asking people how their day is going every chance you get goes a long way towards making people feel seen. And that's one of the things we're talking about here. I think companies need to ensure that the entire on-site staff understands just how much the maintenance team's happiness will positively influence all aspects of the property. It's huge. The maintenance staff has face-to-face and deals with the residents more than anybody else on property. I think it's important that companies train managers on making people feel heard, their employees feel heard. I think there's a lot of opportunities to train just in little ways that we don't think about. For example, simply pick a topic. Ask your maintenance supervisor, things like, what do you think of the faucets that we use in the kitchen? Do you like them? Listen to what they have to say, and then ask them open-ended questions about it for follow-up. They may have some insight that will really help, maybe save money, maybe make their job easier. And then the most important thing is thank them for it. Make them feel seen and heard. Training managers to learn something personal about their staffs every so often, I think is a really great idea. An example of that would be, do you have pets? What kind of pets do you have? Just some little personal thing. What are your hobbies? What are your favorite foods? And I know in my case, I'd have to write it down because I think the important thing is not just asking those questions, but to use the answers that you get in like everyday conversation down the road or meetings and bring it up. If somebody says, well, my favorite food is taco. Well, at a company meeting, say, well, I was going to get tacos because that's Jose's favorite food, but I went ahead and brought donuts because I know everybody loves donuts. So maybe next time, we'll have tacos. But those little human interactions are very important. Only the full extent of what you go through at your job each day. Find a way to acknowledge that the maintenance staff knows more about what they go through each day in their role. That's important, that acknowledgement that their job is tough and only they know just how tough it is, that you'll never really understand. It would be great if companies would have some sort of policy in place. Some may, I don't know, but some sort of policy and support in place for the maintenance and property managers to set small, attainable goals for daily, weekly goals and make sure to celebrate when they're accomplished. A little recognition goes a long way. A pat on the back. I get my elbows and shoulders hurt because I'm doing this all the time because I don't have anybody else here in the house to do it for me, So that goes a long way. Companies, in my opinion, really should make certain that the maintenance training receives the same level of priority of training that the leasing staff gets. It doesn't always happen that way. As a trainer, and Paul, I know you can, I know personally you'll agree with me. I know we've had a lot of discussions about this. Over 5 years, traveling all across this country, doing thousands of maintenance courses, I may have had 2, maybe 3 managers show up to a maintenance course a year. I loved it when managers came to the maintenance courses. They didn't do it. It's kind of sad. It'd be great if they would go to the maintenance courses as well. But one of the things that Paul and I have discussed many times is if we're doing a course where office staff is supposed to be there, boy, they all show up. If you know you're supposed to be here and 30 people are supposed to be there, all 30 people show up when it's got to do with leasing. We've gone to a course where it's just maintenance staff. 30 people are supposed to show up, and you have 6 people and you're on the phone calling, are they showing up? Are they showing up? Well, no, there was an emergency at the property, or we have an inspection today. So, but you know, they just don't seem to have the same priority. I know, I don't know how many multifamily companies there are out there exactly. I don't know the exact number. I'm pretty sure all of them have a trainer on staff for the managers and leasing. Not all of them have maintenance trainers, and that's very sad, in my opinion. It always served me well on site, and everything worked better for me and for my property, my community, my residents, and my teammates when the property manager and I had daily meetings. I called them stand-up meetings. I called them Diet Coke meetings, actually, because I would take my manager a Diet Coke because that's what she drank. She didn't drink coffee. I would never sit down because if I sat down, I'd be there too long. But I would greet her every morning with a good morning and a Diet Coke. I wouldn't always get the good morning back, but we would have a talk and discuss what got accomplished yesterday, what has to get accomplished today, who's upset with her, who's upset with me, what's got to be done. And we worked it out, and then we would part ways. And the last thing I would always say to her is there anything I can do for you before I walk out this door? And, you know, she would return the favor. She might not say good morning to me, but she would always return the favor of, is there anything I can do for you? And finally, I think cross-training is a great way to make maintenance and office staff feel seen and heard, and appreciated. I think it's difficult to do in some cases. I think it's hard to take maintenance people and put them in the office for the day, and office people and put them in maintenance for the day. I don't know that it's ever happened, but I would love to hear or see a manager say, hey, don't you have a garbage disposal to replace today? Yeah, I did. Take me with you and show and let me do it. Walk me through it. Show me how to do it. You know, just those little things. You want to make me feel seen and heard? Do something like that. Take an hour of your day, wear some tennis shoes and some jeans that day. Bring them in to change it or whatever, and put yourself in my world for an hour. And let me show you how it's done. And let me explain that this one was easy because all the pipes lined up. Sometimes I've had ones where the pipes didn't line up and I had to go get new pipe and rerun pipe. Pipes collapsed, or there was a hole in the wall, or the board underneath the sink was caved in, and so I had to fix that as well. Or the water wouldn't shut off here or there, or this broke or that broke, and so I had to get more parts. So they don't always go this smoothly, but this is how it's done. You did a great job, by the way. Those kind of gestures, just human interaction, go a long way, and I think that would really help. I think the last thing I want to say is, and Paul, Adrian, I don't know if you've heard of anybody that does this kind of thing. I was thinking about you two. I hate to say this over the webinar, but I was thinking of you guys in the shower this morning. And I was wondering if you've ever thought about doing rehearsal interviews with your maintenance techs. You know, I'm not on site. I don't do regional or anything like that. So maybe one day if I do, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have interviews with my techs, and it's going to be, hey, let's sit down and do an interview as if I have a maintenance supervisor position open. I'd like to maybe help coach you through an interview like that. And you kind of get to know what they know, how well they know it, and maybe give them some pointers. Don't do it to degrade them and say, oh, no, that's terrible. Oh, man, don't ask that. Don't answer like that. No, don't do that. You know, encourage them. Hey, you did a great job there. Or, you know, you might need to learn a little bit about this or a little bit about this. I would recommend you maybe spend a little time on this. And I think you're about ready for a maintenance supervisor position. And I think it's about time that we start getting you up to speed on this, and then find you a place within our company and let you work yourself out of this position and into another position. And that's all I've got to say about that.
You know, Mark, you bring up something that does echo back to something that was earlier in the chat of finding out that human touch. And somebody brought up that they do exit interviews when somebody leaves their company.
And people don't want to say anything.
Yeah, and they don't want to say anything or that. I may be controversial, up there. I'm not a fan of exit interviews.
No.
Except for the HR stuff. In my mind, if I have an employee or soon to be former employee, and I'm asking them for what they've experienced, it's too late. We need stay interviews. And to your point, Mark, exactly what you were talking about. Yeah. We've got current employees and making them feel appreciated by having that culture, Adrian, that you talk about, that I know, Tara, I've heard you talk about as well. Having that culture where somebody can say something that is not exactly the party line or not exactly the direction the company is in. Say it with honest, respectful candor, and it's received and contemplated without being cast off or thrown away of, oh, that's just a bad idea, especially before we've already lost the employee. Having Paul Bergeron mentions it, a stay interview. Those are ways that we can get that appreciation across to our current employees to prevent them from becoming former employees. That humanity and treat them sincerely.
Yeah, exit interviews, people want to be kind and positive and polite, and they don't want to burn bridges. They're not going to say anything negative about it, but yeah, I think that those kind of coaching strategies, just communicating with them, hey, let's do some interviews and get you ready for this position, get you prepared for an interview, and see where you're at, see if you're ready, and maybe I'll give you some pointers. Maybe you're ready. And we can start looking for you. Those are better than exit interviews any day of the week.
Well, I think this is a great segment right into talking about career paths and transparency and supportive environments that
I'm all about segues.
Yeah, listen, you're doing it beautifully, all of you. You would think it was rehearsed, which it's not, but works perfectly. I really want to take some time here to hear from Tara. I know she's got some great ideas and suggestions here. Tara, what are some strategies management companies can implement to support their maintenance teams to help them with their career development goals?
So I was going to jump in sooner, but I was afraid I would take all my content from what I was about to say. Because these are all so timely. And it's funny, I'll just say this one point, and I agree with what you said, Mark. One of the things I'll just kind of say before I jump into this question is, when I was back on site as a property manager, we spent so much time teaching our team to learn and understand the residents, but we didn't spend that time learning each other and learning, kind of to your point, what's your favorite food? What are the things that you do after hours? Like, you're a human being. We didn't spend as much time doing that. And so I think that those are just some great ideas. The theme has been being human, treating people like humans. So I love that. And I think we just need to balance, not so much always on the resident, but let's focus on our own family and our own team as well. So I love all that. So I'll jump into, I'm kind of a sucker for an acronym. I don't know what it is, but I love a good acronym. And so for this exercise, I decided to create an acronym that I think will be a good strategy and a good roadmap for management companies to use. It's easy to remember. So I'm calling it RAMP, but it's going to be an extra M. So RAMP stands for referrals, associations, milestones, mentors, and personalize. And so I want to kind of dive into each one and show you how I think this would be some really great strategies that are easily implemented for management companies. So let's start with referrals. And you might be like, what the heck does that have to do with career strategy? So I think that anyone who's been in sales, and if you're a leasing professional, you're in sales. When you're a maintenance professional, you're in sales because you're continuing to sell the resident on why they made a good choice to choose that community. So everyone actually is in sales. And we always go with people that we know, like, and trust, right? That's something that we've heard before. But I think that one of the most underrated sources out there is referrals. And so what I mean by that in terms of this application is, if you do not have a robust referral program at your company, I really feel like you're missing out, because maintenance professionals and frankly your other team members, but I'm going to speak just about maintenance professionals, they're going to want to work with people like them. So their friends, their other industry colleagues, maybe they know somebody that's in construction that would make a great fit for multifamily. We're seeing more and more people coming from other industries into our industry right now. And so if you're not offering a robust referral program, I think you're missing out, because if I know that I have an opportunity, whether it's monetary or a day off or whatever, however creative you want to be, I might be more inclined to refer more of my friends and industry colleagues, which will then increase my own tenure, because I want to stay and work with the people that I like and trust. So if you're not utilizing, or if you don't have a good referral program, or if it's not robust and meaningful, then I would encourage you to kind of reevaluate or implement one. So that's referrals. Second is associations. I have been an advocate for associations since the day I joined one back in Chicago years and years ago. And in my opinion, I don't think as an industry we do a great job of teaching our industry. I think part of our onboarding is, let me teach you your job and your day-to-day, but what about teaching them about our industry? I mentioned how many people are coming over from other avenues, construction, whatever it is, but they don't know about the apartment industry. And so I think it's the onus is on us as a successful onboarding tool. Make it part of your kind of HR or your site onboarding, whoever is handling that, to teach them about the industry, teach them about the path and the tools and the people like Paul and Adrian and Mark, who have started in the ground, the grounds up, and what levels of opportunity and designations are out there, because I don't think that they're as aware. If you don't know what you don't know, right? And so I think one idea is to, as part of a compensation package, maybe take a designated amount of money per year and allow the maintenance professional to choose, like, hey, this is the Chicagoland Apartment Association, as an example. Here are all the events they have coming up this year. We'd like to treat you. We don't want to force you into a golf outing if you're not a golfer. So why don't you we're going to treat you to an event of your choosing, or two, whatever that is. I think that's underutilized. I think that the more we can get the professionals out there networking with their colleagues, the more they're apt to stay, because they feel valued and they feel like a part of a community. So that is my association. So the third part of my acronym is milestones. So here's the other thing. And we were talking about, stay interviews. This can be part of this exercise. We do a great job as an industry to have a maintenance appreciation day, or maybe a maintenance appreciation week, but I think we're missing something. I think it's not frequent enough. And so I have an idea about celebrating small wins, celebrate the small milestones. So what if you created a point system for your management company? And on the very first time that a maintenance technician is up and running and he finishes and completes his first, or she completes their first work order, they get 50 points. And then let's say the second, third, fourth, they're building a point system of 5 points for every work order. Then they get their 50th work order. Bam, they get maybe 100 points. And take all of those points, and as a management company, let them cash them in for maybe some company swag, a day off, a gift card. Maybe they want to use it towards professional education, towards their designation. But if they build up this bank of points, they're not only getting rid of the mundane of their job, but they're feeling appreciated, and they have something to look forward to every time they fix a garbage disposal or fix a toilet. So I think that's something that we can really use as a way to energize each person, and it's these small milestones. And I know we're at the top of the hour, so I'll zip through the last two really fast. But mentors, mentors is the other part. I don't think that we should expect them to go find a mentor. Let's help them set up a way to be successful and be paired up with somebody as a mentor. Part of my Amp Your Network is people like Paul and Adrian and Stephanie. You're on there. I've interviewed you about how did you get your start in the industry? Who's your mentor? And what are some tips and tricks? And use that as a resource if you don't have a mentor department. Give them an ability to see people like them who they can relate to. Like, wow, I didn't realize he started as a groundskeeper just like me. And then I'll zip through the last one, which is just personalized. So I feel like I don't see apartment management companies putting their team on their personal websites. If you don't want to do that, make the maintenance team part of the entire resident journey. Include them on the tours. When I was a property manager, we always either started or ended the tour meeting one of the maintenance professionals, whether it was at their shop, in the leasing office, on the path to go tour. If you aren't doing tours in person anymore, then what I would suggest is using an amazing video tool like SalesMail. I use it all the time. What if your maintenance team was sending a personal 30-second video about themselves to each new resident that moved in? Hi, my name's John. I love to throw darts. I love my dog, Fred, and I love to work out. I mean, it doesn't matter. Welcome to the community. What if you did that for renewals? And what if your maintenance professional was sending a personal video to every work order after he's completed it? Hi, Ann. I just wanted to let you know I fixed your garbage disposal. Thanks so much for allowing me into your apartment home, and let me know if you need anything. I think we're missing the mark on some of the basic stuff. And these are just, that acronym for me is something that I think we can employ right away. Very easy. Again, it's RAMP. So that's me. And I'll try to be quick on time.
No
Go,
pressure.
Tara.
That was awesome. And,
Yeah.
you know, when you mentioned going back to basics, I think sometimes we get so caught up in what we need to do and how we need to do it that we do forget that if we started back with some of the most simplistic things and ideas, it would take us so much further. And so I love that you brought that up. Well, we are like right at our time limit. We're actually a few minutes over. I would love any final thoughts, from this team that you want to leave our attendees with. Leave them yearning for more.
I've got, Tara, you mentioned the point system for finishing service requests, and I've got an image of two maintenance people just duking it out to get that last service request at the end of the day so I can get my 50 points. It's mine. I can't get it out of my head.
Think about that. That's great.
Yeah,
Camaraderie.
that's great. Don't you touch that ticket.
And Mark, to your point, there are companies out there that we kind of started talking about technology and the need for it. There are companies out there that actually do exactly what you're talking about, Tara. So there's not a big lift. The management companies don't have to reinvent the wheel. I know we're using one of those and implementing one of those companies now. And actually it is linking into Grace Hill at some points. And I know they link into other LMSs too. But to that point, it really does come back, Tara, to exactly what you were saying, and Adrian. It is treating each other as humans. If the attendees are looking for references on this, one of the best books I've read about this is The 5 Languages of Appreciation. Mary Gwynn, actually, another celebrity, recommended reading it, and she has, at her company, they do exactly what you're referencing, Mark. When they hire somebody, they hand out a survey, not for anything else except for what's your favorite snack, what do you like to do on the weekends, what's your favorite hobby, what are your pets, what do you like, all of those things. I mean, it's brilliant. Treat people as humans, be sincere, fantastic, love it, awesome. Go, Adrian.
Also, that the last thing that Tara mentioned, right? Have your maintenance team members included in the tours. I actually written a policy that was resident orientation, right? SOP, where we made it mandatory when the residents are coming to, to get their keys and get access to their apartment. It's mandatory for a office team member and a service team member to go and show them the apartment, show them the functionality, and actually not just showing them, but there's a couple of other things. They put a face to a name. It's not just a maintenance guy that answers the phone. If they, ever had an emergency, they're gonna meet John in person. John is a real person. So you start making that connection. And also we take the opportunity to where if the resident has any type of service related issues, we will resolve them on the spot versus writing them on a list that goes in a residence file and is getting filed and never get back to it. We solve those issues on the spot, and I could tell you that was fantastic. Like, it was very well received. It created rapport between our team members, our service team members, and the residents, and also customer satisfaction. What's better than to just like point out a list of things and get them fixed before you actually move in with all of your belongings?
Tara, any final thoughts? I saw you put your acronym in the chat. Thank you so much for doing that.
Just don't overcomplicate it. That's the best piece of advice I can give you. I mean, I was on site for so many years, and the more I tried to complicate it, the more I went back to the basics. So just remember that they're human, that they should be included, meaning maintenance professionals should be part of the whole process. And I think if you just do these basic things, your retention is going to skyrocket, and you won't have to worry about the recruiting so much. It's just going to happen naturally because your people are going to stay.
Absolutely. Well, the contact information is on your screen because you may have more questions, and we didn't get a chance to take live questions at the end. But I will say, I think this team did an excellent job answering questions as they were coming in through the chat. So kudos. I want to thank everyone for attending today. I know you're all so busy, and it was great for you to spend this hour with us. I want to give a really special thanks to Paul, Mark, Adrian, and Tara, and of course, Lynn, who is on our back end helping make things happen today. I want to thank you all for your expertise, your wisdom, and just being so happy to share information, because that's what it's all about. We're all in this together. I appreciate you so much. And the contact information is on the screen, so please feel free to reach out. And if nothing else, make it a great day. It's almost Friday, and I just hope your Thursday is amazing.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.